Welcome to Relationship Mastery, a podcast for those who want to learn how to master the art of creating happy, healthy, and loving relationships. Please join me, Adey-Jones, and my co-host, Barry Selby, each Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific for a lively and informative conversation on everything to do with relationships. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us again. And hi, Barry. How are you?
Del. I'm good. How are you?
Well, we're both sharing our little struggles with some health issues, very minor, hay fever and the chills. But we are here today and we've got a great conversation. So I was just saying to Barry, the last 3 shows we've done, I remember looking back now, it was choosing your battles wisely and then going with the flow. And we were just saying that, we don't want to give the impression that it's, just become a doormat. We really, it's about taking responsibility, really doing the work necessary before bringing up a subject to make sure that there's no sort of residuals, that it's really basically you that has created this big drama that you are about to go to war at. But what we also want to say is, if there is an issue, do not brush it under the rug. I mean, all that does is, besides create a big lump under your rug, it festers. I mean, things that need to be brought out into the light and shared and discussed in a responsible, mature manner, it will deteriorate and eat away at the fabric of the relationship, because we might think in the moment, oh, we're fine with this, it's not a big deal, I'm just going to ignore that. And if you haven't been truthful with yourself, and it is something that actually really has caused you upset or concern, it'll fester. It will become, as Barry very nicely said before the show, it'll get pus. So we don't have to build up a pus. So hidden pus. Yeah. So jump in here, Barry. Let's talk about what you've seen, and if it's something you identify with, because I know we've both discussed before that we tend to be, or have been in the past, people pleasers, and it's the people pleasers in us, the conflict avoidant in us, that tends to have that as a default.
I was going to speak to, because the thing is, the piece I want to speak to as well is that oftentimes the fear of losing or the fear of failing in a relationship is sometimes the reason why it's easier to stuff down any sense of upset or feeling of something wrong. Because the thing is, one of the things I think talked about this before on the show, I was raised in a family where there was never any real arguments. We were just like, it was very flat. It was very nice, but it was very like repressed. That's the way of putting it. So we didn't speak up about things. We didn't argue about things. We didn't voice our upsets that much. So I didn't have any training wheels as a kid about how to bring up topics of discord or upset with a partner. And in fact, some of my very early relationships ended because there'll be an argument that I didn't know what to do with, or how to handle, how to respond to. And I shut down and basically bailed out the relationship. So I know from my personal experience that bringing up topics that could cause an argument was very painful and also very risky, because it would actually could mean the end of the relationship. So there was this, being risk averse, it was better to just suppress it and pretend everything's okay. And I just grit my teeth and work my way through it, which isn't healthy. I can definitely speak to that. So the idea about the pitfalls of brushing things under the rug, as the title says, there are many, and I've been through quite a lot of them myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's just, I love that we've had different backgrounds, and very similar ones in many ways. I mean,
Yeah.
originally from the UK, but different backgrounds. I think in my home there was a lot of overt aggression, put it that way, shouting, and there was, a conflict was met with either. I grew up with a single mother, but it was either met with absolute upset or abandonment. I mean, rejection, abandonment. I mean, she could hold a grudge for days to a small child. So you either, I always felt that if there was an issue, I either had to go to war over it. I really had to. It was a big fight, big emotions, big fallout, or I had to stuff it down to keep the peace. And so it wasn't that I wasn't even, that I didn't have healthy modeling on how to talk about something that could potentially create upset. So as the middle child, the fifth child in seven, I was the sort of the peacemaker, the lost child in a way. And so I did develop with certain people the tendency to brush things under the rug because I
Hmm.
just wasn't equipped onto or didn't understand how to deal with them. And I was so afraid of those big reactions that I used to get from my mother or from my siblings even, that I definitely developed that habit. And then what I would find is I would suppress and suppress and suppress. And then, as we know with anything, I think we've given this analogy before, it's the beach ball. When you're putting pressure under on a beach ball, you could keep it under the surface of the water. But the second you take your attention off it or don't, keep that pressure on it, it blows up and hits you in the face. It just bounces out of the water and just smacks you in the nose. And that's what would happen with me. I would suppress and suppress and suppress. Then I couldn't do it any longer, and then I'd blow up.
Right.
Neither one is healthy.
No. In fact, I would add one more piece to it from my side of things. I mentioned before about this baby bullied in high school. That was where I really learned that to speak up meant being basically at risk of being hurt, because it was better to try and be invisible and to hide out, which is the way I was wired back then. Again, so it was combining that with a family that was very flatlined emotionally, so to speak, and then also trying to keep under the radar so in high school so I didn't get beat up too much. It meant that to voice myself and to speak up, I mean, looking back now and saying, I do now speaking on stages, speaking on podcasts and everything else. I'd never even dreamed of doing that when I was a kid because my voice wasn't safe to be expressed. So in relationship, to voice my needs or to say that was wrong or simply to ask what I wanted was almost impossible for me. It wasn't about her; it was about me not being comfortable or safe or trusting what the relationship would provide that I could do that safely. So I don't know if this is common for other people, but certainly we have our own backgrounds that we come from that can limit our ability to speak up and speak for what we need and also what isn't working.
Yeah. And when you were just talking there, it reminded me of many, many years ago. Gosh, let me think when it would have been. It would have been, I think now, 65 minus probably about 40 years ago. I attended some workshops. It was about 40 years ago with a woman called Barbara DeAngelis. I don't know if you've,
I know. Yes.
yes, How to Make Love Work. And
Hmm.
she used to have this thing where she would talk about when one person in the relationship, what she called it tanking, which is to suppress the emotions, to push them down. She said that
Hmm.
the two people were like water tanks with a tube that connected the two of them. And if one of the people were and the water was the emotions, and if one person was shoving down those emotions, it would tank the other person. The water would get pushed into the other person's tank, and they would get more and more and more and more and more and more emotional because they were being tanked by their partner who was suppressing their emotions. And I know that is so true for me. When I have been in a relationship with somebody that has denied their feelings, pushed down their emotions, gone, no, everything's fine, and no, it's not fine.
Right.
It tanks me. It still tanks me to this day. I can feel my own emotions rising because I know that number one, I'm being lied to. I can feel it. I know this person is pissed off about something or has something to say, but won't say it because they're either conflict avoidant or afraid to say it.
Yep.
I can feel my emotions rising. I don't. Have you ever experienced that?
I'm looking back just to view some of our relationships. I know it's interesting the way you put it. That makes sense because I've experienced definitely past relationships where, because again, I was unwilling to voice my upset. My girlfriend at the time would definitely be almost want to shake me to get me to say something because I was so like holding back because she was feeling it for sure. So using that analogy of the tanking of that equilibrium thing in relationship between the two partners absolutely lands for me. I look back and go, yeah, that makes sense. That for me, because I was usually the one on the side where I was trying to hide stuff down and pretend everything's okay, suppress my emotions, that the woman, well, let me just say, I'll say every woman I've been with, most women I've been with, let's be honest, had at some point got upset with me because it's almost like they could feel I was holding back.
Yeah.
So yeah, that definitely resonates.
Yeah, yeah, and it's still true for me. As I said today, my partner is an amazing, wonderful, lovely, sweet man. But I do think there is a part of him that it is has the tendency to not address things, to be the peacekeeper, to just keep going. And I noticed in myself in those moments, I can feel my tension getting higher, and I'm like, come on, there's something here. Let's talk about it. And then we do, and everything's fine. But if
Right.
there's that denial in the beginning of no, everything's fine, and I know it's not fine, then I can start to feel the
Hmm.
emotion rising in me. So yeah, it's really good to sort of to know these things, that it's not again, as we said last week, like, don't react to everything. Take the time, find out where the upset's coming from, see if it's an old emotional trigger and has absolutely nothing to do with the person that's in front of you. But at the same time, if it does have something to do with your partner and it is a difficult subject to bring up, get it up and out. And but at the same time, wait until the emotions have settled. Don't bring it up and out when there's already a lot of, you know, heightened emotions in the moment. Wait till the next day and say, I've been thinking about it, and I see that and take ownership. Just say, I see that I was suppressing my feelings yesterday. I acknowledge that I was afraid if I brought something up, it would damage the relationship. But it's so
Absolutely.
important to me that I would like to bring this situation up. There's a
Yeah.
way to say it without attacking your partner.
Yeah, we talked in a previous episode about like when you get upset, like go for a walk or do something to get the energy off before you come back to communicate. But the anger piece is another piece that came up too. I think I mentioned in this previous episode too about because Alison Armstrong's one of my teachers as well, and I remember being at one of her co-ed events. This came back several years ago, and there was a conversation about anger and how different women's anger is from men's anger. And I'm speaking in more of a global label, so there are variances on the scale, of course. But one thing that came up that really struck me was something that actually Alison didn't recognize until the men talked about this in the room, and she was actually really impacted by it. Was that some of the men shared, and I think it's really true for men who are more sensitive, not for every man certainly, but certainly for men who are more sensitive or more caring, is that we have this wiring and belief that when we get angry, we are basically treading into the word I want to use. Well, but let's do it the other way first. Basically, when we get anger, what comes right behind it for us is shame,
Mm.
because there's something about being angry that for us means that we failed to communicate what we needed, and we let our anger take control, so to speak. And so, that for most men who are aware and are caring, because some men don't give a flying whatever about this, but those who do care, when they get upset, when they get angry, especially at their loved one, the shame that comes out behind it, almost like any of guilt and shame that shows up. It's like, I didn't mean to do that, because we didn't have the tools or the wherewithal or the awareness to voice what was under the rug, and it built up so much it became anger and upset and came out that way. So definitely, that one of the pitfalls of brushing things under the rug is it can get more and more stirred up over time without being expressed, where it can become very volatile. So rather than communicating this doesn't work, it can become as a rageful, upset like vent about something so much out of proportion to what's really going on. So
Mhm.
it's important, I think, for both genders and both sides of the conversation to recognize when something is troubling us. It might be better to talk about it now than let it brew and stew and become worse and worse and worse.
Yeah. Absolutely, and and I know you're saying that but I totally agree with you. And as a female, I know that if I get angry, I always know it's from fear. I can
Yeah.
trace it right back to fear.
Yep.
If I get angry with my partner, it's because I fear that whatever's going on is jeopardizing my relationship,
Yep.
and that's where the fear. So I actually want, if I do get angry, I actually feel shame afterwards, because I'm like, oh, I, I, why didn't I just express it when it was fear? Why did I? Why did I?
Exactly.
Wasn't I in touch enough to know? Oh, I'm feeling fearful right now. It was like, it's the anger is lets me know. Oh no, I was afraid. Now I've got to go and apologize, which is
No, but that is so true. There is that thing that we both, because, and this is the thing that's so crazy, is that in our relationships, having an open communication back and forth is not always as easy as we think it is. And so we end up carrying these assumptions and rules and emotional baggage that doesn't need to be there, because we all carry, it's like you're saying about you feel ashamed, and I feel ashamed after the anger too. It's almost like we are wired to make our relationships more challenging. So if we have to, so it does take work. It takes effort to make the relationship more functional, more effective, more loving, more grace filled, and communication more open. Because that open communication between partners is really for some people, where the real work is, to be able to say what's honest, what's real, what's in the moment from both sides of the conversation, and be received lovingly, kindly, and honestly.
Mm.
That would be a goal, I guess, for many relationships.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. And even now, I'll even take that back about not wishing that, you know, I think every emotion we have, I know I've said this before, is a good emotion, even anger. Because you know what? My anger lets me know I'm afraid. Because when I'm afraid, obviously my defense mechanism is to be in denial about it. That's just, I hid my fear.
Right.
So in a way, anger is my friend. Anger lets me know that I am fearful that my relationship isn't as solid as I thought it was, or as compatible as I thought it was, or whatever it is. The other thing, I'm thinking back, I remember my son, gosh, how old is he now? 27. Um, when he was around 14, he had a lot of therapy at the time. He went through a really traumatic experience in his life, and he really, really needed um, some pretty intense therapy. His little girlfriend died in front of him, and he, at a young age, we don't can't see that it wasn't our fault, and he felt that he maybe there was something he could have done to have prevented this car running her over. He wasn't. There's nothing he could have done. He just said goodbye to her a few minutes earlier and turned around and started walking away, and then she got hit. But anyway, he was extremely needed an awful lot of help, and in my dynamic in with his father was very, very easily expressed anger, and that's where I saw, out of all my relationships, where I probably shut down a lot, because I was just trying to keep the balance and not really say too much, and have it be more harmonious. But I remember
Mhm.
my son saying to me at one time, he said, and it really struck me. I'm being really honest here, because I thought what I was doing was better than the raging that was going on. I thought my calmness and whatever. And my son said to me, he said, he was so wise. He goes, at least I know where Dad's at. When
Mhm.
you're people pleasing, I can't trust you because I don't know what you're really thinking. I was like, oh, that was
Yep.
huge for me, huge, because I thought I was being the better parent by suppressing my feelings and being, making everybody happy and not rocking the boat. But I heard it and I thought, wow, that is so true. If I'm constantly being the nice one and hiding my upset, then he doesn't trust me.
Right. Massive. And
Massive.
I want to take another piece of that, because that reminds you, in the personal development field, in spiritual growth, and all the work people do, is one of the skills, one of the benefits, one of the talent, one of the abilities we get. That's the word. Is that when we start doing this work enough, we start recognizing when things trigger us, we get to do the inner work to resolve it, to make peace with it, to let it go. It's almost like a martial art, where it's very like it just deflects anything, so we feel much more comfortable being ourselves. The downside, because you just said it, of that is oftentimes we're not being seen by our partner as being truly there with them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's like there's a line where in the world we need to be, not need to be, but there's in the world it was ideal for us to be less reactive and more responsive. I talk about this quite a lot in my own work. But when it's in relationships, sometimes the reactivity is almost needed to make it healthy, as
Mm-hmm.
weird as that sounds, because it means that you're being felt and you can be seen as truly what's going on. So it's almost like you want to do the inner work all the time, but when you're in a relationship, maybe you want to tell your partners, like, I'm really upset, but I'm going to do something about it right now so I can be centered. Because then at least it's acknowledging the upset. And your partner goes, okay, thank you. Now I know.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, is we have this bad habit sometimes of keeping things so close to the chest, so to speak, like keeping things under the rug, that we want to make sure we're perfect for everybody else. And that's one of my drivers, I know, is I
Mm-hmm.
don't show any sense of weakness, show any signs of flaw, show any sense of discord. Always be okay and be perfect, because that way people will love me, is the rules that are running inside. I'm
Yeah.
sure I'm not the only. doing that one. So then we,
I think you
well,
are. Come on, let's make you the whole wide world.
but this is the thing.
Put my hand up too. I do that too.
We have this thought that if we show some humanity, you know, when we trip over or cough or do anything that's out of perfection, that
Yeah.
somehow people think less of us, especially
Mm,
in a relationship. So this reminder that you brought forward is so potent because it gives us the reminder that oftentimes what our partner wants from us is reality, not perfection.
yeah.
We keep thinking perfection is what they want, which is so inaccurate. So be real, don't be perfect.
No, exactly. And it's so funny you're saying that because it's not so much that I need to be perfect because I know my own distrust of perfect people.
Hmm.
I can feel it. I don't trust them. It's like so I'm very much like I'm sure if you've been listening to this show, I'm warts and all. I'm always burying my chest literally. Well, not literally, not on YouTube,
No.
but certainly I don't hold much back. But and I again I thank my son for helping me see that the more authentic I am with all of my feelings, the more that he felt safe with me. He
Yeah.
felt that even if I was angry, he felt safer with me because he at least knew what was going on, that I wasn't hiding anything. And that is an incredible gift to another human being, is to just always let them know where you're at
Yeah.
in a non-accusatory way. Like you said, hey, I'm in a bad mood today. Sorry, trying to do something about it, but woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning, and this is who I am right now. And
Yeah.
often when we voice it and give voice to it instead of suppressing it, it just comes. It's energy. All it is energy, and it flows through us. When we grapple with it, when we argue with it, when we dismiss it and minimize it and deny it, whatever it is, that's when it festers and grows and stays and becomes much bigger than it was ever in the beginning. What started off as a niggle becomes this massive, deal that we have to, cope with.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's again back to the reminder is first of all, try not to mind read your partner. And don't second guess them either. It's like, the more we can be transparently real, honest as we are, as you said, warts and all, which is really that's the risk factor in relationships so many times. I remember seeing a meme of like the couple on the first date, they're eating with their tiny forks and you can cut their little fingers and eating so delicately and being so kind and so like, eating minimally. And then 6 weeks into the relationship, they're in sweats eating pizza, with drip with crumbs on their pouring down their face. It's that lessening of the perfection and opening up to more trust that who you are is going to be okay as you are.
yeah,
So
yeah,
letting yourself, not letting yourself go, but letting yourself be seen, as you said, warts and all, meaning that you can be seen real where you do, oh God, you farted in front of them sort of thing. Those silly little things we talk about. But that's going to come down to, you know,
That's
it's that.
you just reminded me. Oh my god, I'm really going to out myself here. I remember children are the best. They are absolutely the best. I remember when my other son was probably about 14, he said to me, he goes, why don't women fart? And I thought, I've done a really good job of hiding that, haven't I?
Right.
He doesn't think women fart. I thought it was hysterical. Maybe it wasn't 14, 10 or something like that. But I remember
Mhm.
laughing so hard. I thought, God, you've done a good job.
But that's the thing is that the perceptions we have, because again, that's the thing. Well, the more honest we can be, so people see us as we really are, with all of our expression, good, bad, and indifferent,
Yeah,
the more one people will see us as we are, which is second. It's the first thing. Second thing is if that's what they want and they love it, even better. Then the relationship doesn't have any falsehood. The challenge is a lot of relationships. I feel like is people have this um, belief that it should be pretending to be a certain way all the time, so you can't down your guard anytime in the relationship.
yeah,
And I've had relationships that failed because we tried doing that, it didn't work.
yeah.
So having that ease and I mean, it's like you keep holding your breath because like trying to look perfect in the mirror. It's like eventually you got to let your stomach out.
Yeah, and the other thing about, I'm going back over years and years ago to some of my previous relationships. Even though it's stressful for us when we hold things in and keep it bottled up, even if we're not fully aware of it, our body knows it, and our body
Yeah.
is reacting, and we're getting all that cortisol running through us and adrenaline, and because we're holding on tight, we're holding on tight to something, afraid of it coming up and out. And but what it can also be for the other person. I was in a relationship when I was very young, but my boyfriend at the time, he 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 subtly let me know that he was disapproving.
Hmm.
He was my very first narcissist, so he shall remain nameless. But I knew he disapproved, and it would mount with each of the things I had done wrong. His disapproval got worse, but he never voiced it. But in his attitude towards me and how he treated me, and I would always keep saying his name. um, did I do anything wrong? Is everything okay? You seem distant. You seem this. You see, no, no, everything's fine. And then guaranteed it would be like every 7 days, I'd get the biggest tongue lashing. I mean, just like viciousness with the laundry list of what I'd done the previous week. And
Right.
I'd be like, but why didn't you tell me last Sunday? Because you've held it in all week and you've added all these things onto it, and now you're even more angry with me. And that was the pattern of our relationship. There was a once a week or once every 5 days unleashing of his collected woes. And it was brutal. And again, he was stressed because he wasn't voicing it in the moment. And I was stressed because I could feel it. And then I was anticipating the massive blowout that was going to happen in, 5 to 7 days. So
Yeah.
try and have a relationship like that. It didn't work for either of us. And
Absolutely.
it was quite a long relationship. It was about 18 months, 2 years of it. I felt it almost destroyed me. But anyway, it's definitely, and again, you're feeding the monster that says that you're not safe when you speak your truth. When you
Hmm.
suppress and brush things under the rug, you are reinforcing that belief that you being authentic is dangerous and not wanted.
Absolutely. And we talked about it before about way back in the about the quote like "you complete me" from Jerry Maguire. The idea that somehow we're not complete is because a lot of times we suppress who we are, and so being 100% ourselves and being open to accepting all of ourselves, good, bad, and indifferent, then the person who we're with can see all of us, which is more additive to the relationship. And if both partners do that, that's the opportunity for a really healthy relationship. But as I said before, some people are so much into the pretense of trying to look perfect, trying to look good, trying to hide any bad things that their partner doesn't really get to know who they really are on a whole level. They just know part of them.
Mhm.
And relationships, you and I are both adamant about this, are about full openness and full expression of who we are with each other, so it can be fully embraced and fully accepted and fully giving. So definitely something to look forward to for those of you who haven't done it before.
All right, I think that was a good chat there, Barry. I think we covered it all.
Well, we did all of it. Sure, there's plenty more to talk about on this one, but definitely a good content here.
Yeah, exactly. So it's spring, so spring cleaning. Lift that
Yes.
rug, brush everything out from under it. No, I'm teasing. Take your time. Don't hurl it all. Don't hurl all the stuff that's collected in one go. But bit by bit, just
Mhm.
work towards being more honest with what you're feeling, but always, always in a loving, respectful, responsible way. Owning your side, not making it about the other person. You're just expressing yourself. That's all you're doing. You're not attacking the other person. You're just letting them know what's up for you and how you feel.
Yeah, and if you really want to do this well, and you're in a relationship, enroll your partner in this. Tell your partner what you're doing,
Oh
so they
God,
can support you and be a good reflection to you. And of course, they might want to do the same thing, perhaps.
I think it's wise.
Yes.
Well, thank you again, everyone. I really love this chat, Barry. Thank you. And
Thank you.
everybody have a fabulous week, and we'll see you next week.
Take care. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye bye.
We trust you enjoyed this episode and invite you to share this with your friends and loved ones. In fact, please subscribe to our Relationship Mastery podcast. That way you'll get each new episode fresh and shiny as soon as it is released. We'd love to hear from you as well. So go ahead and enter your questions and comments info@relationshipmastery.show. Take good care. We will connect with you in our next episode of Relationship Mastery.